welcome to the Saving Humanity podcast. We are live, and we've doubled the amount of folks in this podcast. We think aesthetically it's better, and we're pleased to be with you. You're going to have a lot of value, we think, bestowed, and it's an honor to be here just sharing. And we have with us Tori, which is Nathan's significant other. We have Nathan, which you may know from last episode. He was kind of more the host. I was, interviewing me. We have Macy, who I cold approached downtown, and we're here. Nathan, I know you. Nathan is our resident sort of technician, and he has experience in podcasts, and so I'm gonna hand the microphone to Nathan. And Nathan, thank you for being here.
Okay, so we'll just jump right into it. Mm-hmm. So you're the guest.
Yes.
And we're all just kind of going to have an open conversation. Mm-hmm. No pressure. No, I don't want you to feel like there's a spotlight on you. But I kind of just want to jump into, and hopefully we just branch off into different conversations, but kind of just want to jump into your background and sort of your childhood. I got to talk to you briefly for a little bit, and it was pretty interesting. So let's just get right into it. And yeah, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Wisconsin. And I grew up in a very religious family. I have 10 siblings, so I have 6 brothers and 4 sisters, and I am almost smack dab in the middle, so middle child syndrome, it runs pretty strong in me. No, it really is. So we were raised really religious. My mom and dad, I would consider them like extremist, non-denominational Christian. And I know you were asking me what that meant, but like there really isn't like an exact term for it. But everything that we were taught was rooted in religion. And we were homeschooled. Like I was homeschooled for part of my life. And then my parents got divorced, and so my mom had to put us in public school just because she was a single mom for a couple of years. So yeah, that obviously had its own difficulties. Yeah.
By the way, I can hear the Wisconsin when you said single mom.
Damn it.
I mean, I'm not wanting to speak about how to talk because I slur words all the time.
When I say bag. Whoa. Bag.
That's fair, which is a Salt Lake term. That's a Utah term. I was not saying that. No, that's fair. Fair.
Oh,
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And here's Nathan.
Keep going. Keep going.
So I guess where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. So my mom got remarried to my stepdad, and he wasn't like actually diagnosed, but he is a covert narcissist. So that was really interesting to see growing up and how he treated my mom and how he treated us, and just like, it's complex, very complex. So I feel like first half of my life, I dealt with so many difficulties just with having an alcoholic as a father and living with all of my siblings, and we were extremely poor. And then I was put into this like new environment with the same people, but I feel like everything changed just because of like a man in your house is just like such a strong presence, especially with like how he treats, the person that he's married to. It sets the tone. So yeah, it was, I always make a joke and I say I have daddy issues times 2, but I actually really do. Coupled with the fact that I have also mommy issues. So
thank you for your honesty.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that. And like me and Nathan, I mean, I think everyone here is very open-minded, and we're just we're all doing the best we can wherever we're at.
Yeah.
And
yeah, of course.
the fact that you're here right now is like you're raising the vibration of yourself. I think we're all doing that. We're all, sharing value with humanity, and the more personal, the more universal, which is like a lot of people have a similar upbringing religiously. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
and growing up in the South, and
Yeah.
there's a church on every corner. And
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting when like that is like your way of thinking your whole life, like being raised religious, and I never resonated with it ever. Like I found myself questioning it at a very young age because I saw the damage that it did. Like my mom stayed married to my dad for 20 years and he was abusive, he's an alcoholic. Um he barely even provided for all of us when she couldn't work, and she willingly put herself in that position and all of us due to religion, she says, because it's against the Bible to get divorced. Um, so I've just seen a lot of harm in that. And obviously, I know that there's good in it too. But yeah. What are your thoughts on religion?
wow, we were just talking about this the other day. If you want to ask me my thoughts, I'm going to tell the world my thoughts on religion. Hello, Mom. Hope you're doing well. I sent my dad this podcast. My dad will be getting a copy. I've already had these uncomfortable conversations with my parents. So
Oh yeah, same. It's a huge point of contention in my life with my mom and number of my siblings following her footsteps.
So my views on religion is, of course, I think we all know it's man-made. It's like
It is.
it helped us evolve to where we are now, and the society that dominates, the stories that they told helped them get to where they are. So like it kept society orderly. It was it and
Like a control tactic, essentially.
I think it's just like it's what we needed to evolve. It's what we needed to survive. It's like if we didn't have something to die for, if you guys can go in here and we win this
Yeah.
war, this is you're doing this on behalf of God, whatever
Yeah.
God you're fighting for.
Yeah.
And humanity is like 40,000 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been a lot of gods. There's been a lot of things we've worshipped. The Bible's 5,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so this is the latest iteration of that.
Mm-hmm.
So what the people that dominated, which is like the Roman Catholic Church and like hardcore for like 400 or 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the last, 1,000 years since the Middle Ages with the England, they had the Magna Carta and all that, which kind of formed our civilization as we know it, which is more like you're not under rule of a king. But what they were practicing, which is like the modern day Christianity, or some form of it, is what is in our culture dominant, and it's what kept us together. And even 150 years ago, this is crazy. We were talking about this the other day. Me and Tori were 150 years ago. If you're a pioneer, like in Salt Lake City, like if you don't have, and like if you're a woman, and I'm just going to be honest here, and you don't have like a man who has resources and who can survive, like you do not survive. Your kids may die.
Yeah.
So like a lot of things that we do, we think we're doing it out of our own volition, but it's our evolutionary biology running us.
It's like instinctual.
It's instinctual.
Yeah.
So the things that we think that we really want, even like when we have control of ourselves, we're like, okay, this is my map of how I'm going to have success. I'm going to go from point A to point B to point C. Like where you're trying to go is like your subconscious. It's your biological drives and things.
I heard this statistic once that you literally only have access to like, I think it's like 7% of your brain or like your consciousness. Like we believe that I feel like it's commonly believed that we're making every single decision like actively on our own, but so much of our behavior is driven by our subconscious mind.
Absolutely. And like I love evolutionary psychology. I was telling Tori.
Yeah, me too.
And me and Nate's already talked about all this, but in general though, that is a great thing to learn. How people think, why they do the things they do.
For sure.
And it diffuses some of the animosity you may have against someone.
Definitely.
And it puts things in perspective.
Kind
And
of scary though.
Why?
Just without that understanding or knowing that or knowing like how certain decisions that you make could affect you in your life. I don't know, like there are times where I'm not even conscious of like something that I'm doing, and
Right.
then you then see like a negative impact in your life and you're like, oh shit, like this is actually entirely my fault because I wasn't being self-aware enough.
Right.
Or yeah.
Well, first of all, this is
Scary.
that's awesome. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing this. Like you're doing awesome right now. Nathan, did you want to continue? Do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's super interesting. I've heard, even like a quote from Carl Jung where he talks about how you need to make the unconscious conscious.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will call it fate.
I've heard that
like I'm paraphrasing, but it's
Yes. Yeah.
it's an awesome quote.
It is.
And the more you can make those unconscious things conscious, like the more control you're going to have over your life. Because it's true, like most of what you do,
Mhm.
it's mostly subconscious behavior. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So how did you move into self development? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I always, like I mentioned before, I felt this like internal pull away from religion. I never really resonated with it, and I think that I have that like
What turned you off to it originally?
um I wouldn't say like it not turn me off to it. I just think that like I never really fully believed in it. Like I went to church every single Sunday. My mom would read us Bible verses before bed every single night, in the school that she taught us through homeschooling. A lot of it was rooted in the Bible, and we couldn't watch certain TV shows. I couldn't shop at Abercrombie. Like I couldn't wear certain things or say certain things, and I just felt so restricted my whole life. Like, and I always remember like, what kind of life is this if you can't, you know, if you can't enjoy things that are in your life, like it should be up to you, not something you can't see or touch, whatever. And as a kid, you don't really understand faith. It's hard to grasp it. But I had moved out of my parents' house the second I turned 18. I moved in with my sister in Madison, Wisconsin. And I kind of just like naturally started to be grounded in myself for the first time in my life. And I kind of just like stumbled upon, books or podcasts or music or whatever made me feel as grounded in myself as possible. And I would consider myself a spiritual person, absolutely. And then I got really sick in 2020 with mono. I didn't know it was mono at the time. They told me it was the flu. And a couple weeks later, I started, I just was super sick, like for 2 years of my life. I had no idea what was going on. I had the worst brain fatigue. I thought I had diabetes. I like went into the doctor, got all these blood tests done, and like I had no answers, and I just felt like I was dying every single day. Like I could barely even go outside. I had the worst light sensitivity ever. And it turned out that I had mono when I got sick, and I didn't know that. And the Epstein-Barr virus, they like ran antibodies for that. They did that test on me, and like they were like, yeah, you have these antibodies, so you must have been sick with mono, and you can actually develop a lot of autoimmune disorders. Like the Epstein-Barr virus can trigger all of this. And still, like a lot of autoimmune disorders are still like undetected. Like it's hard for them to really like understand them, I think, like at least of what I've read or found. But yeah, I still don't really even have answers, but I've been told it could be autoimmune disorders. But that it was really a pivotal moment in like my journey into like self-development and like I don't know, just trying to find answers, I guess. Yeah, I was lost for a really long time. I was incredibly depressed. I was meditating like 20 minutes every night before bed. I did yoga every single day. I tried the Wim Hof method. I did like cold exposure therapy, and I went to the gym every day, and I was trying to eat healthier, and nothing really helped. But I felt more grounded and more at peace than I had ever been in my life. And from that moment on, I just like, I don't know, I just kind of like fell in love with the journey of bettering myself.
Did you ever dive into like inner child work?
Oh, yeah.
Do work there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you work with like a coach, or did you just
No.
get into it yourself?
So I stumbled upon this therapist on Instagram. Her name is Dr. Nicola Perda. I don't know if you guys, yeah. Commonly known as the holistic psychologist. So before she even wrote a book, she had these journal prompts that she would, give out to the world on Instagram. And I did this journal religiously every single day, like every morning, there was like 5 questions, and I religiously did them. And then she wrote her book, but she was the one that introduced me to inner child work.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say thank you for sharing all this.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. really appreciate your authenticity.
Mhm.
And this is why I wanted you on the show because, see, this is back to Nathan.
You just wanted to say you were right.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for this is a big step, and
Yeah.
I can dude, I a lot of the religion and the things there's a theme, and man, it's very interesting how just all this works, how life is,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
me and Nathan talk all the time about like pattern recognition,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
like you can recognize patterns, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like all of us like this is like a higher vibrational conversation.
Definitely.
And you have to have intelligence to have it.
Yeah.
So like I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by people that are intelligent enough to
Me
have it.
too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Back to Nathan.
Back to you, Nathan.
So, what did you grow? Like you went to church growing up? Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah,
So-
that was gonna be one of my questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for wanting to know about me. That's a great topic of mine.
Enough talking about me.
So I grew up. So my dad, what's up, Dad? He did not go to church. He was pretty agnostic, atheist.
Mm.
All right. He was like smart and intelligent about a lot of things, science, math, and so forth. And my mom did. She took us to church. So I got about as mixed as you could get.
Interesting.
I'd go to the church with my mom, and I'd come home. I'd tell my dad something about church. My dad'd be like, "All right, let's not talk about that. Come over here and let's do this."
That's an interesting dynamic between two people that are married.
It was crazy.
I've literally never heard of that
Yeah,
before.
my mom. So my dad. I have this theory about, like, yeah. So my mom grew up a little religious, and then like religious and was go to church and things. But then like after she married my dad, she found religion. But my dad was like, I don't believe in none of that stuff. And so she didn't divorce him either because, like you said, in the Christian, and what she said was because he was Christian. Plus, like, he's a good person. Like that's the number one thing. He's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to take care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great dad. So like I think my mom's smart in that like she connected with somebody who had good genes. So I don't want to, but like my brother's no, I'm gonna tell everybody. My brother, aerospace engineer. Okay,
Oh damn.
like his intelligence. He is a savant in like math and science.
Damn.
I think, and I mean this is easy to say when you're the person, but like I think I'm thankful for the genetics that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And especially from my dad's side. So my mom, who grew up kind of poor, family of 7, she met my dad, saw my dad, and he was higher functioning. He came from a better family. His dad worked on the NASA space missions
Dang.
back in the 60s. He traveled around the whole country. They moved him from Cape Canaveral, Florida, Houston, Texas, Huntsville, Alabama. He did the electrical work on the lunar landing. So he was
Damn.
one of the people who did the electrical engineering to get us to the moon. Okay. And so that was my dad's background. And I think my mom saw that. And I think she knew he wasn't going to church. But she was like, well, now's an opportunity to make the gene pool good. So she she married him, had 2 kids. And me and my brother are both like very, like my brother's just, he's a savant in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And then I'm, I can handle myself. I've lived all over the country. I've been
Mhm.
investing since I was 21 years old. Like,
That was one of the things you said to me when you first, like, within the 5 minutes, you were like, "Do you invest?" And I'm like,
you have to. I tell these guys all the time.
"I know."
That's the number one thing, guys.
know.
If you're not investing your money right now, so there's a quote by Albert Einstein. Okay, here's the quote: "He who understands compound interest can have the world. He who does not understand it," I'm paraphrasing as Nathan said, will get stomped by it. If
Mhm.
you're not in the market and you're not letting your money grow passively, you will have to work for the rest of your life. You'll always be poor.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what to do. I know how to do it. I'm committed to it. I'm disciplined to do it. I don't even think about it. I work, get my investments, and it does steamroll. And you guys, dude, everyone here, you can have if you started now, you guys are going to be like, you'll have a huge amount. And so like, but it takes that. You have to have the foresight to do that. You have to have the intelligence to at least
Yeah.
understand like, how does what would be the most efficient way to go about life. So I thank my mom for what she did because she grew up with a dad who was like, he had a business. So my mother's father was like a carpenter, but he had his own business. So he raised 7 kids, own business. He would go and build things. But their family grew up poor. There was religion, but like the dad would abuse them. The dad, I think he sexually assaulted some, the girls too. Or there's talks of things he did that weren't appropriate. And then he was hard. He would beat them. He was just a hard man. He was a World War II guy. He was kicked out of his house at 12 years old, had a 3rd grade education. But
Damn.
that's how the world was. Like he was born like 1923. And like his dad told him, get out there and go.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just generational thing, and as we like evolve as creatures, like it's still so early on, for humanity in general. Well, I was gonna ask you, when did
Yeah.
your parents get married? What year?
1978.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I just said, just as the generations like evolve, marriage has been different in each generation.
For sure.
And it is about the genes, but it's like so funny to even hear you say that, because like I feel like nowadays there have obviously been people in my life that I've been in love with and could see myself marrying, but I'm never like, I want to marry them for their genes. It's like I love them so much and I want to create a life with them, versus like obviously the genes are like, yeah, if they have good genes, hell yeah, cherry on top of the sundae. But it's never been about like, I mean, do you guys think about that stuff? Genes?
What the?
Well, hand it over. I mean, I consider it like in the beginning. I'm like, is this person 3 feet tall? Yeah, like, yeah. Do they have some sort of crazy, like, are they gonna die next week? Like I think of things like that for sure. Do I give them an IQ test while I'm dating them? No, but no. I consider it for sure in the beginning, but I think obviously once you're in a deep relationship with someone, yeah, it's not really. It doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, you just love them for who they are. So,
I think there's 2 parts to this. There's hanging out with people, and then like your friends or people that you.
you definitely want to make sure your kids are good. Like that's been my concern. It's not like for generations long, but it's more like I want my kids to be healthy. I do want them to have good genetics. I want them to succeed. Yeah.
No, and so there's, but if I'm co-parenting with someone, if that's like the thing of like what I'm thinking about doing, and we're back on the Saving Humanity podcast, and we have
So where were we?
co-parenting versus okay. So speaking of, do genetics matter when you are gonna? My version of relationships is a lot different than most. So I think if I was gonna have children with someone, I think it's everything. It's 90% of it. Like, of course, you want someone who has integrity, ethics, would be a good mom. Like, from my perspective, I just think, like, would this person be a good mother? Would they, like, go out drinking and leave the child? And then what is their intelligence? What's their background?
course.
Things of that nature. And that's, I mean, yeah, that's a very interesting thing, because I've spent the majority of my adult life paranoid about getting somebody pregnant and never wanted to. Like, just wouldn't do it. Like, if I wasn't protected, if the girl wasn't capable of handling, like, if I didn't know for sure, I'd just be like, let's just forget this. We're not even going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I didn't want to screw my son over or my daughter, because me and my dad are so close. Like, my dad, Nathan will tell you, we talk all the time. Like, we talk every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, and so how close I am with my dad, how much I love my dad, and how much, like, he shaped me. I never wanted to put my son in a situation, or my daughter, and I think of son because I'm a man, in a situation where he did not have the kind of relationship with me
Yeah.
like I do with my dad.
Yeah.
So I've been very vigilant about that.
Yeah.
And how I've lived.
I think that all of those factors that you had mentioned, the intelligence and everything you listed, that's important to you. I think all of that ties into falling in love with somebody, because I think love is also about admiration and perspective. And like when I fall in love with somebody, I don't just fall in love with what they look like or whatever. I fall in love with like every single part of them. And I think that, like, yeah, I don't know. I think all of those things tie into being in love with somebody.
You're right, and I think the subconsciously the evolutionary biology
Yeah.
clicks those things, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting topic, and
Yeah. It is.
and I feel like, so I'm not politically correct in a lot of ways. I think a lot of our problems in society are because we have too many dumb people having kids.
I agree.
Yeah. So I
agree.
mean, I don't even know. We can talk more about that and